Hi, friends. I'm glad you're here. Welcome. Glad you can join me today. We'll get started soon and let some of our friends join us live. Welcome, everyone. Nice to see you. Aloha. Good morning. Hi, Jerry. Nice to see you. Welcome to say hello in the chat. I'm glad you're here. We're going to do some interesting work today. I got a very good email from a regular who said that she'd like us to build a pillar of light for children today. And I think that's a good idea. So we're going to look at that later on. Towards the end of our call, we always like to build a beautiful pillar of light. Hi, Susan. Hi, Jessica. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for coming. Hi, Nico. Hi, Meg. All right, so we have a bunch of people joining us. Glad to see you too, Kathy. I'm really glad to be here today. It's been quite the weekend here in Ecuador. We're in a bit of a lockdown at the moment. So it's been very quiet. Everything's very still this weekend. And one of my friends said, oh my gosh, is it your birthday, Meg? Everyone's saying happy birthday. Oh, I'm so glad. Good. Hi, Christina. I'm glad. I'm so glad you liked that interview. Thank you. And Valerie, glad that you're here. And you too, Dakey. Nice to see you. All right, let's jump in. I wanted to talk to all of you about what's happening, of course, at the moment, and that there's this little pause that's happening, and we should take advantage of it. And so, greetings, Ali and Milena too, and Caroline. So we have these two waves coming, right? And right now in this new 2021 year, here we've gone through our first quarter, and there's been these huge waves, and there's a pause. We're in between something big and something big. It's the best way I can describe it, right? So it's sort of like when a wave comes, there's this pause where the wave goes out again and then it comes back. And that's where we're at. And the one that's coming is bigger than the last one. And it's like, seriously? Can we handle it? And that's the question. Because honestly, the past 4 months or so have been so extreme when it comes to the revealing of the inner self, and especially the revealing of shadow. This is for everybody. It's not just you. It's not just me. It's for all of us. So this magnification being caused by formlessness. Formlessness gives you blinding clarity. I remember some years ago, like a year or two ago, I think it was the beginning of last year, Lee Harris, who's a famous spiritual teacher, said very clearly, and he wasn't the only one, but I liked that he was saying it because he's fairly mainstream. He was saying, hey, there's blinding clarity coming, blinding clarity. Well, that's what's happened. We didn't know exactly how it would happen or when, but it happened, beginning January of this year. And so this blinding clarity is shining a light on It's making this very, very bright, clear light of existence show up so that we can see what's going on from the inside out. So the past 4 months, we've been finding ourselves more stressed, more triggered, more either disconnected or more connected to certain things, and we're finding shadow. So what does that look like in like a personal way? You know, what do we do in these talks each month? I try to show you like what is going on in people's personal lives and how it relates to the universal of what's happening. So we take the personal to the universal every month. And now that we have a good amount of people on, I wanted to warn you that if my internet drops for some reason and this suddenly goes blank, just stay on the channel because I'll be able to come back on. It happened like either last time or the time before. Just hang out on this channel and you'll see me come back on the live stream. So if it drops out for any reason, just stay on the channel and you'll see me come back up and we'll get back together. It happened once and it might happen again. Ecuador internet is iffy. Anyway, that being said, here we are. There's a pause. Take today and, the beginning of this coming week to be still, because the next layer of clarity is coming. How do I know that? Because you can see it and feel it too. This is a collective consciousness attribute. I'm naming something we can all feel. There's another wave coming. What's this wave? It's the meeting of two waves again. And other seers and myself have noticed that there's cross waves now. It used to be that there was one big, huge wave in consciousness, and you could track it through a lot of different ways. And now it's not. It's two. It's very different. It's unusual. I've never experienced anything like this in my life, so I have no reference except physics to say what happens when two waves hit each other, right? Chaos, a lot of chaos, a lot of churning up of density. So if you're looking at water and these two waves hit each other, cross waves, right? Before right now they're pulled back and we're like, whoa, it's still right now. Wow, okay. Well, you want to take advantage of that, right? To build strength. How do you build strength? You've got to be still. Strength is light. Light is power. You need to be still. Be very, very still during these little moments where the waves have pulled back, because there's going to be more still points coming. And each time the waves come back, they're going to come back stronger and bigger and more intense. So we need to get strong right now. And what part of you? Not the personal self, the universal self, the soul, the one that's source, you, the real you, not Elizabeth. That's the personal self. The real you who came here at this time on purpose for this reason, to see what it's like to live in a dying world in transition, that's transitioning to something entirely new that we have no reference for, even in our galactic memory. We don't have a reference for this because it's never happened before in this galaxy and perhaps beyond. So even my soul level memories aren't helping me out much at the moment because this is new. That's why we're here. You were curious and brave enough to say, all right, I gotta try this out. Like this is something unprecedented. This new ride called being a human on Earth in 2021. I'm going to try out this ride and see what this is like. I want to see what it's like to live in a world that's in transition, to live in a world where you don't just get one wave of consciousness, you get two, and they cross each other and stir up all of my density, all of my ego, all of my trauma, all my shadow. But that's not just the end of it. Experiencing this is not exactly why we're here. We're also here to learn through doing. So as these crosswaves come back, when will they come back through? I have no idea. Maybe at the end of the week? Full moon? I have no clue. The last time I felt it crossing like this little still point was the last full moon. So maybe that's what's happening. There's a pattern. There's always patterns. Humans are great at finding patterns. So if you're noticing patterns, that's good. I want you to keep noticing it. Kind of track this stuff. Because the more you put it outside of yourself on a piece of paper, the easier the next step is going to be. So track patterns. This actually helps you feel a little more sane, because then you're like, all right, Elizabeth's saying there's patterns and I'm not the only one seeing them. And okay, good. And I'm saying it from a voice that connects with a lot of people a lot of the time. So having noticed what's going on, not just through psychic connection to the collective, but literally talking to a lot of people all the time. So there's patterns. You're not crazy. And they're getting more and more strange and obvious. And, you know, one of my friends from 20 years ago called me up and said, I see patterns everywhere and I'm keeping track of them because I want people to make sure later if they look at this stuff that I'm not crazy. I said, no, you're not crazy. These were patterns that are being revealed by the blinding clarity. And I said, that's good. Keep track of them. That's really good. That helps you to tell your brain, hey, brain, you're not crazy. It's okay. You really are seeing, 444 everywhere. You really are seeing number patterns. You really are seeing, energy patterns with the sun, the moon, the people. You really are tracking patterns. So let your brain do its thing. It can see and notice patterns. Don't dismiss it. That's the first tool. Let yourself notice the patterns, because that's going to help us in the long run to navigate these waves. Second thing, when waves come in and they do their thing and they churn a bunch of stuff up, what happens? Well, this is when everybody says, oh, I've had a nervous breakdown this week, can't handle my stuff anymore today. Like, I'm just done. Or I can't get out of bed. Wow, I'm so triggered. I can't handle this stuff. I cannot even look at the news anymore. Or, wow, why do all these horrible things keep happening? Like, I can't get a break. What's next? That's the churning up of really deep stuff. And then even underneath that is the shadow self. Now, the shadow self of yours and mine has a common theme a lot of the time. The shadow self is very traumatized and it has needs that aren't being met. So, a person might be really quite pleased with their marriage, perhaps, and their household. Their life is pretty decent, perhaps, right? Things are getting by. Everything's peaceful. We're just trying to have some kind of basic level human peace here. And the shadow self says, no, that's not good enough. No, I'm sorry, but having a happy marriage and a pretty nice household or whatever, that's not good enough for me. I'm not free enough. I am not connected enough. You need to talk to your shadow self. It might take the form of a younger version of you. It might take the form of a very specific part of you that doesn't necessarily have an age. It's deeply subconscious, the shadow self. And the shadow self's under a lot of pressure. That's why it's called shadow, right? Or when we say something's really dense, it's very hard for light to get through it, even though it is actually made of light. That's the third tool I'm going to show you. But first, you got to be able to talk to these traumatized parts of yourself that's under pressure. You need to know when they show up. They're going to show up when things are happening right. Ooh, this is a big one. When things are going pretty well, it's the shadow self that pops up and says, oh no, nope, this is all going to get ruined. This isn't going to last. And maybe even takes you deeper into, do you really deserve this? You might remember last month and the month before, I've been talking about the Human Hate Program, but I've also been talking about being afraid of being happy. That's the shadow self, very traumatized, who says, if I'm happy, it's going to get ruined soon enough. We need to talk to this part of ourselves. They have a valid voice. They need to be heard. So you got to find it in your body. Where does that shadow self show up? Sometimes it just feels like it's just simply in the subconscious, which is true. But it can also take over different parts of your body when you're thinking about what your shadow self has to say. So you really do need to find it in your body, because your body is the one who needs to be still. Your body is the container of all the other bodies, the emotional body, the mental body, the light body, etc. So we have this little chat and we say, well, what do you really need? Do you really need, like, you're obviously not happy just having a happy marriage and happy kids, or you're obviously not, like, this isn't working for you. Your needs aren't really being met. You might have a pretty nice apartment and a decent job at the moment and enjoying your cats or your dog or whatever, but it's not good enough, because the shadow self says, no, all of that's going to be lost. I need something else. I need to be connected. I need to, what do they need? Usually it's that they are needing to be connected to something bigger than themselves. This is why the email I sent out about rituals, if you can see that interview with Kat Dillon coming up tomorrow, I'm sending an email out tonight. So if you want to sign up, Kat Dillon is really cool, and she is very savvy, and she put together a little summit. And I'm like, oh, I've got to be part of this, because we talk about routines and rituals. And my talk is specifically about addiction. Literally. I'm nailing addiction and saying, we have got this wrong. We have a completely wrong way of viewing addiction. And I mean it in all ways. Everything from addiction to sugar. Like, seriously, try to get me out of bed by telling me that I'm not going to get coffee in the morning. Yeah, right. It's not going to happen. Right? So, from that, the like gentlest of addictions, maybe you're addicted to Netflix. One of my friends, like, I'm addicted to movies right now. I can't stop binge watching movies. It just distracts me. It distracts me from my suffering. So everything from that to like hardcore, wow, I'm addicted to heroin level stuff, right? We've got it all wrong. And so starting tomorrow is this symposium, and in my talk, I specifically talk about how to end addiction. And I want to give you that hint. It has to do with ritual context. That shadow self doesn't have the ritual context and training it needs to be still. So we end up depending on certain things in our lives to help us feel free and connected. Two of the highest levels of consciousness that humans attain. How did they used to do it? Well, they had a ritual that they were involved in. And that ritual was repeated with a leader, usually a shaman, a teacher, a priestess, a priest, someone who had dedicated themselves to the elevation of consciousness, right? Through ritual. It's modern society that's missing rituals. And the rituals we've created are usually connected to corporations and very poor contexts for connecting to things bigger than you. You know, the teacher, the shaman, the priest, or the priestess would show you how to stay connected and stay free from the inside out so that when you were around things that were addictive, it wasn't such a big deal because you already knew how to be connected. It's people who don't feel connected and don't know how to access that permanently that end up addicted to anything from Netflix to crack. So this is a human problem we all face. And I actually, in the talk with Kat, I talk specifically about my own problems with addiction and how I realized, wow, this is what's missing. Because there's something missing. I'm a very smart lady, and I think about this stuff, and I would feel so ashamed that I was addicted to alcohol. And I thought, there's something else though. Like, that shame is one thing, but there's a reason. There's things missing in me that are causing me to misuse this connectivity that I feel when I'm drinking a bottle of wine. And so this leads me back to these waves. Listen, this next one coming is bigger and stronger than the last, and they will only get bigger and stronger over the next few years. So I want to set us up for success because we have no idea what's coming. And there's a million timelines where we all figure this out and a million where we don't. And they all lead back home to source no matter what. But we've got to be strategic in our mystical navigation of consciousness to be able to make sure that one of those million timelines where we all figure this out actually unfolds before our eyes. It's up to us. We are creator beings. So when the shadow shows up, that feeling of disconnect, that feeling of not getting your needs met, when you notice that core wound. So I want to talk about the core wound because we have to embrace it. So let me give you an example from my own life. Over the past couple of weeks, I thought, oh, maybe April I'll get a bit of a break from my processing. No. And so I went through another process that was even darker than all the others. This is how mysticism works. And we get a little lighter and a little brighter when we do this work. So I saw this process come up and it was so big and so terrifying. And it's so straightforward. And it was, I am genuinely afraid. I'm afraid of what I see. I'm afraid of being psychic. I'm afraid of the darkness that I see. Which sounds so different than my usual, we can do this, we're warriors, you know. But no, there's this part of me that holds me back. Because growing up as a kid, being able to see as much as I can and have always been able to was no piece of cake. Because here you have like a guest come into the house, for example, right? and I can see demonic attachments all over them. It's like a person wearing chains walking into the house. Or, a family member having a problem, but it's more than a problem. It's so dark or so evil or so dense that it's unbearable. And to have been given the gift to be able to see the heart of darkness, to be able to go into the heart of darkness in my life. For me, it had to do with looking at war and the military and the loss that has been incurred throughout much of my life, having grown up in that. But also, of course, the darkness of ritual abuse, the darkness of people choosing to sell their souls and their lives for power that is false instead of light, which is real power. And to know exactly how that looks, how it feels, to see it in its fullness. Even as a small child, I have an underlying feeling of constant terror that has ruled my life because I'm genuinely afraid of what I see. And this is a huge process. I'm not finished with it, but I'm close. And there's a roadmap. There's a roadmap to reconcile this, because that's what it is. The reconciliation of the heart of darkness and the heart of light is in me. It's not going to happen outside of me. It's going to happen outside of me because I was willing to do it here inside myself. It will be available in consciousness because I'm willing to do it here and say, I am the heart of darkness. I am the heart of light. What is the truth? The truth is, if you go deep enough into that darkness, and I have over and over and over again, either in sessions or through myself and my own experiences, or through what I see, but to have gone into the very depths of that, I want to tell you what it's really made of. The roadmap is to go deeper, to go as deep into the shadow within you, to go deep into the craving for connectedness and freedom, to go deep into the part of you who says, this isn't good enough and it's not going to last. And beyond that, to go deep into the part of you that's afraid of the darkness, that's afraid of evil. Go into him, go into her and ask, show me what it feels like to truly be this afraid. It can't hurt you. You will only learn from it. And there is a secret. There's a secret to be found. So as I go into my own fear and the war, the military, the killing, the devastation, the ritual abuse, the combination of the two, how they work together. So I go into myself. Anything outside of me that I say is bad, evil, whatever, I'm only noticing that because it's pinging something in me. So the minute that you are willing to look outside yourself and notice this stuff, turn the question right back around and say, how is this also in me? Because you're not separate from anything. It's being pinged in your consciousness for a reason, so that you can reconcile it inside of you. And then you won't get pinged anymore. When you go deep into it and you keep going, it's like quantum level digging. You got to dig with your consciousness. You got to go into the feeling of being that afraid. And then you're really close to finding out the secret. When you're really willing to be that terrified and stand in that terror, you're really close. That's where most people stop, right? You're like, wow, this is horrible. I'm not doing this. And they're out of there. And they're just a baby step away from the truth. When you welcome all that terror, you merge with it, it's a doorway. You merge with it, it's a doorway. And when it opens, I'll tell you the secret. All that is made of light. All of it. We are taught in terms, and we function often in terms of polarities. Evil, darkness, this is the stuff I don't want. Shadow, pain, suffering, worrying. And we're like, no, 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 no. This, I don't want this. What happens when you do that? You might go into the light for a while, but guess what? You're always going to have to spin back around because you got to deal with this. You got to figure out what's it really made of. It showed up in your life for a reason. If you don't want it to keep showing up, you need to open this up. You need to open this up so it can be revealed for what it really is, and then it will not cause you more suffering, which is why I'm like, hey, I'm still in process. Today with you, I'm taking a little break, but I'm in it, man. I'm in it. I'm letting myself be terrified. I'm going into this and I'm saying, what are you really made of? I'm going to be terrified of what I see. I'm going to be terrified of evil and darkness. And that is what is going to get me to the root of it so that this can finally be revealed. And as I get deeper and deeper and deeper, what happens? It gets lighter and brighter because this was only ever made of light in the first place. It's light, it is consciousness, and it's under pressure. And when you reveal it, the pressure releases and an explosion of light happens through your body, through your reality. And now there's nothing to be afraid of in the whole universe because all the darkness and all the evil in front of you, you know exactly what it's made of. And the only power it will have over you is when you decide that you don't have the power to reveal it, that you're not strong enough to be afraid for a whole week or two or a month or more and deal with this and reconcile it finally. The only thing keeping you is fear of fear. It's the weirdest setup. Fear of fear keeps us from doing this work. But if you've done this enough times with something, maybe not this big, huge, holy cow thing, but start with like, what, a month or two ago, and I said, I'm afraid of being happy. Start with that. How are you afraid of being happy? How does that feel? Welcome it. Let it burn through. It's a door. It's a door, and it's a very different energy. So you've got to get used to it. It doesn't feel good to go in through fear of being happy and then notice the immense light that comes through. And now, my friends, I can genuinely tell you I am not afraid of being happy anymore. And it shows. My body changes. The light changes. This is measurable stuff. Now that density, that fear of being happy is not there anymore because I processed it. I went into it, I revealed it, and now I'm really, really happy I did because I really understand now where it all came from, what that part of me really needs to be happy. she was attaching, and let me give you a more clarity about it because I didn't finish the process entirely. So what I realized was this part of me that was afraid of being happy was attaching happiness to things that could be lost. I was attaching happiness to my marriage. I was attaching happiness to my kids, to my experiences, to money. And that's why she was constantly afraid, because those things can change like any minute. So no wonder she was afraid to be happy, because her happiness was connected to impermanent things. And finally, when we reconciled all this and we welcomed the pain of all of that, the pain of disappointed expectations, the pain of losing things that you're attached to, including outcomes, then we found a different level of happiness that's not attached to anything. It's just a field, it's a frequency. It's not attached to anything at all. It's there no matter what. I had never, ever experienced that before. I didn't even know that was a thing. But I had to go through that fear and face it, be it, become it, understand it, reveal it, talk to it, allow it. And then as that happened, I found this other place. You see, this density revealed itself, and in the revealing was light, the light of happiness that is omniscient, that doesn't disappear, that's not connected to anything that can be lost or changed. The immovable stillness of source is where that happiness comes from. And it won't change. But I couldn't see it or feel it or get to know that unless I was willing to go deep into this shadow and say, all right, I'm terrified. I'm actually like really scared of being happy. Every time I feel happy, I immediately shut it down because I don't want to suffer. I don't want to lose my happiness. So I had to put an intention out there and say, I intend to be finished being afraid of being happy. I have no idea how this is going to unfold, but I trust my soul and I trust source. I trust in the process, whatever. Some people don't trust source. Some people don't trust themselves, but in that case, then they can at least try a process that works, that a lot of people are saying it works, right? Over many, many decades, this particular mysticism process works. So many people could say, hey, your mind is the one who says they can't trust source or trust your soul or whatever. But the mind is pretty logical. So if you're like, hey, mind, I know that you don't trust source or your soul at the moment, but here's all this great evidence that says that this particular process will work for you. Can you give it a try? And then you go through one process successfully. You drill down into the shadow all the way and you reveal it for what it really is. And you feel that big burst, that connection of light, that true happiness. And then your mind is going to be like, oh, wow. Okay. That was amazing. Can we do that again? And then after a few processes, the brain's like, all right, I think I can trust the soul a little better because I'm really starting to see and experience and get to know this soul part of me a lot easier now that I'm actually going through these processes and getting through the shadow and revealing the light. And now I can feel it, I can experience it, and I'm more clear, there's measurable results. Then the mind isn't going to keep you back from trusting your soul and trusting source anymore. So if you're one of those folks who says, I don't trust God, God lets all this terrible stuff happen. It's because the mind's been misinformed. But the terrible stuff is part of divine light as well. And that's what I keep trying to tell my little psychic self who says, oh, I don't like seeing this stuff. I don't like seeing demons and war, and I don't like seeing the darkness and the heart of it. I don't want this. But eventually she's gonna, and it is happening right now, she's seeing more and more, wow, the more I go into this, the more I can see what it's really made of, because that sight, the sight that terrified me my whole life up till now, that sight is also the thing that is revealing the truth to me, that is helping me walk this path of light. And that's the same for you. Whatever process it is coming up, whatever core wound is being revealed, you're not alone. This one was a core wound for me right now. And some of you have written me and said that. You've been going through core wound stuff and you're like, whoa, I don't know if I can handle this. This is so much. But I want to say you're not alone. I'm in it too. I see it too. I'm feeling it too. And I didn't realize how big this process was about being afraid to be me, basically. And it's huge, but it's so beautiful. I can feel it now. I'm past the halfway mark and I can feel the revealing of light happening more and more. And gosh, it makes me so compassionate for you and me. Like, I actually have compassion for myself at this point, which is weird for me because I'm usually so hard on myself. But I have a lot of compassion right now for me and looking at my life and saying, dang, I set this up, man. This is it. This is the life. This is the life where I'm going to reconcile good and evil, darkness and light in me. Wow. Wow, we worked really hard to be here. Okay, this is it. And guess what? You're in the same part of the library as me. You worked just as hard to get here. Eons, lifetimes, thousands of lifetimes to be here, to do this lifetime. The vision I had was of a being of light in a locked part of the library, having unlocked it. Many, many locks, right? Seeing this being of light, realizing, oh my gosh, that's me. Becoming this being of light. And I'm like, well, she's reading a book. And I looked down at the book. I was like, oh my God, this is my life. This being of light who seemed so much more powerful than me in the vision, but was really me, reading this book. What is this amazing, important book that was locked away in the completely, you have to do these 20 million different things to get here section of the library. And then I look at the book, I'm like, it's my life. This is about Elizabeth. And then it dawned on me what had just happened. Oh my gosh, this is the life. This is the life that I have worked for. I am not going to let this slip through my fingers, man. I have worked too hard, too many lifetimes to be here. Too hard in this lifetime to be here with you right now. I'm not going to let this go. I'm going to use this the very best I can. I'm going to use this life to do what I've been wanting to do for millions of years, which is to finally reconcile all the dark and all of the light in me. So what are you reconciling? Something big. What's the polarity? Is it dark and light? Is it good and evil? Is it something else? Is it abundance and scarcity? What else? Maybe it's a few things. What are you reconciling in this life that you've spent eons working at? What's your core wound? My core wound is guilt and hatred and terror of darkness and evil. Guilt in that I have had lifetimes where I was evil. All of us do. In order to understand what we're going to reconcile, I can't reconcile darkness if I don't understand darkness or why people get involved in darkness. I can't understand evil if I really am not hanging around evil stuff enough to get it. What were you hanging around in? What showed up in this lifetime that seemed like, I don't want that in my life. I don't want to be a victim anymore. I don't want to die of poverty. What is your holy cow polarity you're here to reconcile? You're in the same section of the library. You did as much work as I did to get here. That's why I kept telling everybody, look, 2021, 2020, yeah, big, it was huge. It was a massive step. But 2021 is us in a completely brand new configuration on a whole other track where we are all on the cutting edge. If you are on this planet, you're on the cutting edge and you're going to need to make choices. Sometimes it's going to be, hey, I'm going to jump into this, and the rest of your friends and family might choose differently. That's the kind of hard choices we're making. Hey, I'm going to dive off this cliff. I'm going to take this leap into consciousness. Will you guys come with me? And a lot of folks are going to say, no, I'm not coming with you. Every one of us is going to have to make that choice. We have been making that choice right now. Past few months have been all about that. What are you leaping into? What are you willing to do? How are you willing to use these crazy cross waves to help you dig down into shadow? Because that's what it's for. The cross waves are going to dig deep. They move a lot of sediment, so you can go really deep. And then you get this little pause like we're in at the moment. And you're like, wow, phew, hope that doesn't happen again. No, wrong attitude. It's going to, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Over the next few years, it's going to get bigger. Until in 4 years, you and I are going to be on this YouTube channel and we're going to be like, wow, I thought it was going to be big, but man, that was bigger than I could have ever imagined. That's why we're here. It's this lifetime. So we got to get strong. We got to be willing to reveal what's available and to embody it. And so how do you embody it? You got to feel it and you got to meditate. You got to still your mind and still your emotional body. Doing these processes, I've really discovered wow, I have to meditate. I can't just process. I have to. I always knew you should. And then I'd do processing all day long and I'd be completely exhausted and I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up the next morning exhausted because I hadn't done the second half of the work. The first half is to reveal all this stuff, to get through this darkness, to reveal it so you can see that it's really made of light. Every single bit of it is, no matter what it is. It's all made of light because it's all from source. Every single part of this reality is source. And our mind doesn't get that. Our mind can't get it because we need to still the mind in order for the mind to be on board. So what I should have been doing, which I've implemented now because it's desperate, was to do a process, keep going, keep being willing to be in the terror, welcoming it, moving through it, letting it burn through, letting it be uncomfortable, and then meditating to still the mind and say, all right, whatever garbage bags I just burned through, I need to fill up the rest of the space. I need to clean up the space. I need to get it full of light. And the only way you can do that is through meditation or prayer. So those of you that would rather pray, same thing. It works exactly the same way. You're just welcoming light when you pray, when you're connecting to source. You're welcoming light when you meditate and you're being still so source can take over. Same thing. So don't forget that second half, because that's what's going to get you stronger. It's going to get your mind to get out of the way, because the mind is going to be like, all right, I feel a lot better now. I can handle the next layer. Otherwise, we get exhausted and your brain will fight you and you'll not be able to get out of bed. And all of us have gone through this. I just went through it this past week. And it affected my whole family because I wasn't properly going in to be still. And I've watched some stuff come up in my family that needed to be revealed to me so that I could be like, wow, okay, this meditation thing, you got to take it really seriously. You really have to make it just as important as any process or any revealing that you're doing. So this is how you get strong. This is how we go through these waves. I'm really glad that we're like in this in-between pause, because otherwise I feel like I'd be trying to talk over the chaos of two waves hitting again. So for whatever reason, this divine timing of us meeting today, and I have to be honest, I'm like half hour before our meeting, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can get on this call. And I'm always glad I do anyway, because I can feel you and I see you and I hear you and I understand. And being able to talk about it out loud like this helps all of us realize that, hey, we aren't completely alone, because we're not. We're so connected, and that's the point. And the more work you do in the revealing and the meditating to bring in the light, the more you'll feel that connection, and you'll see it, feel it, hear it, know it, taste it. You'll feel it in your body. You'll feel all of the people who are doing the same stuff. So at no point have I been feeling alone. Actually, now that I look at it, I have not been feeling alone about this stuff. I thought I would. I thought I'd feel really, really alone about being afraid of being psychic, being afraid of seeing darkness. And I don't. I don't feel alone. I feel you. Because I think that in me doing it, we're doing it together. That's the truth. The collective consciousness is real. Good. So let me dive into some questions and kind of notice what's happening here on our chat. Yeah, and Kathy's saying, we're going through the same stuff together in love. We're stronger. It's true. Yeah, good. So kind of backing up here through our commentaries. Yeah, stillness. And Julie's got a good point. What does a dying world really mean? She's saying, I'm hoping that it means the end of inhumanity, hatred, oppression, old patriarchy, etc. Oh, it's that and so much more. It's that and so much more. But Julie, turn that question back around inwards, right? What is it that you're ready to end now? That's what we're going to ask when I say, what does it feel like to live in a dying world? Well, we can switch that right back around on ourselves. What's ready to be finished inside me now? Well, at the start of the year, it was a lot of self-hatred and worthlessness. And then it got into the being afraid of being happy was ready to be done. And now being afraid of pure dark evil is also ready to be done. So there's all sorts of things ready to be done in me. The old patriarchy, self-hatred, oppression inside of me, my own, to literally enlighten ourselves, to help ourselves become Homo luminous, a human of light, a human that is not disconnected from all other humans, no matter how they might be acting or how they might be suffering or causing suffering. So we keep asking that, what's ready to be ended in me? What's transforming in me? What's transitioning inside of me? So that's a mystical tool. A question of, well, what I would like to see end in the world out here is all this stuff. And then we also switch it up and say, and how is that going to end in me? And so play with that, Julie. See how that feels. See if it can show you how you have chose to be here at the end and the beginning. Every ending is a beginning, and we want to use it well. And this ending and beginning is big. It's not just going to be a month or a year. It's years. It's years of transition. So Daiki's saying the new pattern last week for me that I'm recapitulating is ego control and the internal matrix of justifying my existence that has a lot of personal and collective trauma shifting. And the body's lighting up. And so other people are also pointing out, hey, I'm feeling some of this darkness in me that's getting reconciled, my shadow self, the self that's been told so many times, you can't do that. You can't see that. The self that's been burned in the fire so many times. Nico's pointing out that the whole expression around allowing more happiness is so important. Yeah. And especially that kind of happiness and almost every like high level energy is going to have a field that it originated from, right? Like source has that field of love, but that love isn't attached to anything. Or the field of happiness, but it's not attached to anything. So you always got to consider asking yourself that question. I really want to feel love for the world, but I feel so angry at how things are, or this group of people, or these choices, or the patriarchy, or oppression in general, or hatred. And so we feel like our joy or our love or our compassion has to be attached to how much less hatred is in the world or how much less oppression is in the world. And that leads to nothing but grief. So by reconciling our attachment to how we're loving or how we're compassionate because of someone or something or a specific event, we have to find the field. By being willing to accept all of it, we find the field of love and happiness and compassion that's not attached to anything, that won't disappear just because somebody's a jerk to you one day or because some big global event is horrible or whatever. And that's what people mean by having a paradise in your mind. People who have been jailed for years on end, still like Nelson Mandela saying, hey, I still had my love. I still had my compassion and my happiness, even though they kept me in jail for so long. Well, how was that possible? Because he didn't attach his happiness or his compassion to how he was being treated or anything that was impermanent. He was connected to the field of happiness, right? So kind of notice that as that these sorts of things show up in your life, like, wow, I have this expectation. Am I attaching something that really is a high vibe field? Am I anchoring it into something that's impermanent? This is a good way to kind of look at it. Yeah, I love that concept of being a creator being. And I think it's key. It's really key. Because if you go down deep to what is being human all about, which is like literally the whole science of anthropology, but if you get to the philosophical part, a lot of it is, am I actually having any influence on reality? That's one of the biggest things we've been kept from learning. What would have happened to you? I want you to think about this. What would have happened to you if your parents said to you one day, you are a creator being, you are a being of light, you are here and you can help create reality through your thoughts, through your emotions, and your body. And that you create reality in co-creation with all beings around you who are also deeply, deeply connected to you, even if you don't like them. And that you help create relationships, events around you. So use that power wisely. What would have happened to us? How would our lives be different? How will my children, who I teach that to, how are they going to navigate the world differently? I already see them navigating the world very differently than I did when I was their age. So we've got some really great work to be done, and it's not too late for you to take up all of your hurt inner children who we're going to help today in our pillar of light, but to take up all those parts of you who really feel that they don't have any control or reason or power or abilities, who feel very disconnected, oppressed, and not free to be themselves. It's not too late for you to re-show yourself the truth that you are a creator being. Do it every day. Do a ritual every day. Make a little vignette every day. Meditate every day. Do some processing every day, and you'll find that you are a creator being. Things begin to change around you. Even if the only thing you changed was inside of you, you'll see big changes around you. And then you start to measure them so that your brain will catch up to it and say, okay, this is a thing. It's not fake. It's not woo-woo. Good. So Janice is asking, is there a difference between happiness and blissfulness? I don't really know. I think it just kind of depends, Janice. Each of us have like a different way of experiencing happiness because you are a unique facet in consciousness. My facet, there's only one facet of my consciousness that exists in this universe. There's only one of you, and none of us can all be the same facet. We're all different facets of source. So from your source vantage point, is happiness the same as blissfulness? Feel the answer in your body. Your brain's not going to answer it. Feel the answer in your body. For me, it's pretty much the same, but that's from my vantage point. So from yours, it might be totally different. But that's the truth. You are a creator being. You're creating from one facet in an entire array of facets of consciousness, many zillions and trillions and gazillions of possible facets of consciousness in this universe. And you have the privilege and the joy and the honor of being you, being your facet. So that's why I can't really answer your question, because only your soul can answer that for you. So yes, and Milena, that's actually why I brought it up around the core wound, because yes, exactly. There are literally the most purifying, incredible transformations and synchronicities at the moment, which is why I've been very difficult to get a hold of, because I literally have been emotionally processing for like 4 straight months now. And so I apologize for not being as available as I usually try to be. Yeah, so Julie's noticing that the good and evil polarity and the abundance scarcity really pinged for her. This is what you're here to reconcile. And a lot of us are going to have overlaps. So, Julie, your facet of reality, your facet of consciousness is going to have her specific way of reconciling that. It's going to be different than mine. But the reason why it has to be done is because the more varieties of consciousness reconciling these polarities, the more possibilities of our consciousness together going through one of those timelines where we make all this work, where we make this human thing and this earth thing work in harmony, where we regain our power as a species instead of being a slave race anymore. So if you're willing to reconcile whatever polarity shows up for your facet of consciousness as a creator, then we give an opportunity for all humanity to be able to do this with us in the long run, to be able to accomplish some things that we really want to accomplish, like becoming the next new species while we're still in these bodies. Homo luminous, the human of light. Good stuff. Yeah, someone brought up abandonment. Yeah, that's a big one. Oh boy, abandonment and banishment versus being accepted or welcomed. That's a big holy cow polarity. I like seeing that other people are noticing the holy cow polarities in themselves. Janice is mentioning, commitment, but especially to people. So Janice, maybe your commitment to people is really difficult because you might have judgment or pain around humans. What are some things you can commit to? Animals, plants, earth, the whales, the dolphins. There's some part of you that's able to commit to lots of beings who are conscious. But what is it about humans that you're having a hard time committing to? And of course, do you feel separate from being human? Oh, so many people do. So many people, they're like, this whole human thing, I could totally do without. A lot of people come to me and they're like, I didn't come here for humans. I came here for Earth, or I came here for the animals. I came here for the ocean. I came here for the architecture of consciousness. I didn't come here for those dang humans. Why? Then why did you become human? Because you wanted to reconcile that. You wanted to reconcile nature and humanity, who actually are one. They're not separate. Humans are not separate from Earth. Our DNA literally needs the planet that we're on. If you take our DNA and you put it on Pleiades and expect it to work out, it's not going to work out. If you take our DNA and you put us on a different planet, Mars, for example, it's not going to work out. Our DNA specifically evolved into this heightened state of consciousness with Gaia. So if someone has a hard time committing to humans, but they don't have a hard time committing to the earth, then you're here to reconcile this disconnect that's happened between humans and the earth, which is why you decided to become human who was committed to the earth. And that's a lot of people. That's pretty normal. It's actually much weirder for people to say, hey, I'm here for the humans. And that's me. I'm the one, I'm like, I'm here for the humans. I love Earth. I love the animals, but it's the humans. I love the humans. That's why I'm here. So it's much more common for people to be like, I don't know about these humans. Or, ooh, is this really what I signed up for? I don't think I read the fine print. Or I'm really uncomfortable. I would rather be a dolphin. Please. Please. You know, that's normal. You're not alone. I think, you know, if we were to like really look at percentages, probably like 70% of people feel that way. That's a lot. 7 out of 10 people. If we lined 10 people up and I said, who are you here for? Most of them aren't going to say humans. And that's fair enough. Being human has been hard. We've been enslaved the whole dang time we've been here. No wonder being human isn't your first choice, but you're strong enough that you came in and you're like, all right, we got to reconcile this stuff. If Earth's going to be okay, if the animals are going to be okay, then we got to reconcile this human thing. So send me in, man. I'm going in. I'm going to do the human thing, and I'm going to try to reconcile the human Earth disconnect, the human nature disconnect that was forced on us. It's not natural. It's been forced on us. Good. I'm glad that you brought that up, Janice. Thank you. Yeah. So Melina's saying, my core wound is the fear of losing everything in the blink of an eye. Transcending duality. Star Wars actually helped me pinpoint this core fear. I love it. I think that, you know, Melina, you're working through with meditation, prayer, contemplation, and contemplation helped you the best. So contemplation, the way that, like, for example, Richard Rudd teaches it, he's a genius at talking about contemplation. Go look at what Richard Rudd says about contemplation. But you don't have to do a whole lot of work with contemplation. You need to just be an allowance. You have to surrender it. You have to surrender to contemplate. So you might take this thing like, humans, I have a hard time committing to humans. Help me reveal this. And you just set it in the field and you let it unfold. You let it upwell. You don't try to control it and be like super systematic about stuff. You got to let it be revealed. Things got to, when allowed in your field, everything will be revealed as to why exactly you picked that polarity or that wind. And so, Melina, you're certainly not alone in the literal levels of terror you're talking about. We're talking about galactic memory where entire planets were completely destroyed, either on purpose or by other beings or whatever. And then, of course, you know, take that down to the Homo sapien experience, you know, you say that and the bombing of Dresden, Germany comes up in my mind. The complete and total loss of everything in the blink of an eye. Nagasaki. World War II, there's a few examples of that. So this is not an unfounded fear. This is a galactic level fear. Every single one of these processes are. The fear of being happy is not just a Homo sapien problem. The fear of evil is not just a human issue. This is big. This is why I'm saying it's all of consciousness. The human part of consciousness has been a blip, but it's been really powerful. Otherwise, there wouldn't be over 1,000 different beings from different dimensions and planets interested in us. And if you're not so sure about that, just wait till June when the Pentagon releases all their stuff. The CIA already did. We wanted full disclosure, and we're getting it. It should be the very first thing at the top of our news, but it's not. But it's up to you. It's up to you to be a galactic citizen. It's up to us as humans who are awake to decide that we're going to take our equal place at the table for galactic citizenry, not be slaves anymore. And there's a lot of beings out there who want that. They want us at the table because we have unique attributes and unique experiences to bring to that table that they haven't had. So I'm glad that you brought that up, Milena. Thank you. Yeah, breathing. Joe's saying breathing is really key. I agree. The breath can really, really still your vagus nerve. And that helps to calm the mind. So I like to do gazing. I'll gaze at a Sri Yantra mandala and I'll breathe. And that stills the mind and emotional body. Eileen's saying, hey, I went through a solitude for 14 months and it made me much stronger. And she created a lot. She created a lot of music at that time. So stillness, that's actually a good point, Eileen. What happens to you when you're still? Well, then the mind isn't so busy. The emotional body isn't buzzing and distorting everything. That's when creative stuff comes up. That's when creative you, the soul inside of you, who's created your reality, shows up and takes over. So that's what you can look forward to. Stillness helps you to connect to this other energy that's not just about revealing the dark, but this other energy, this subtle, creative, refined, beautiful, easy energy. Stillness can give you access to that again. And I say again because most of us had it originally early on. Patricia's bringing up the self-care piece. She says, yes, each day is a new adventure. I give myself hugs, compassion. I'm lightheaded when I walk and it shifts during the day. Frequencies are intense. That's right. I went out to lunch with my friend on Friday and we were both sitting in a restaurant going like, oh, wow, this is super hard to do because we could see and feel every little thing someone speaks and you can see and feel their ego and their soul. And it's like, phew. No wonder you're lightheaded. I am too. So definitely happening. The most sensitive of us are like, it's heightened to the greatest degrees. And those who were having trouble with being sensitive in the first place are starting to really feel it and see it and know it. Yeah, it's happening. It's pretty normal. Yeah, Caroline is pointing out, like so many people having some trouble with scarcity still, and it's really hard to break out of that. And that's a holy cow polarity, Caroline. We need to understand how we have feared scarcity more than anything, especially now. You need to ask that question. How have I feared scarcity in my life? Where was I taught that in different parts of my life? And let it be revealed to you. Let it upwell. Make an intention and say, I want to fully understand my fear of scarcity. Let it bloom in your field. Contemplate it. And then you're also going to discover, and here's a secret to how polarities work. When you reveal how you were afraid of it, you will also see why you created it, allowed it, and experienced it in your life. When you're willing to, I'm going to repeat that. When you're willing to look at why something is there, how you were afraid of it, and why, it reveals much more. It reveals why you had to experience it in the first place to understand scarcity. It's going to be different for everyone because your facet of consciousness is unique. And then you got to look at the other side of it. Well, how have I been afraid of abundance? Because parts of you have. How have I been afraid of abundance? And when you reveal that, you'll also discover a lot more of why you needed to have that experience. And then the polarities start to break down into their very, very most base emotions of pure fear and pure love. And you keep following the fear and you reconcile it, the bottom drops out, and then you discover it's all love. And that even in scarcity, there's still light. That scarcity is just pressure. Scarcity is us feeling separate from a cycle that's natural, a cycle of lack and a cycle of harvest, a cycle where everything's dormant and a cycle where it all grows, the winter and the summer. And then you realize that there's nothing to be afraid of around scarcity or abundance, because you'll have accepted the fear so fully that you break it down. It dissolves into light. Give that a try, Caroline. See how that works for you. Play with that. See how working with the possibilities of how you learned about abundance and scarcity in this life then can finally reveal the pure fear, the pure desire. And we drop down through that and it becomes light. It reconciles. The whole polarity collapses into one thing, just light. And that's the truth. And that's where all the power comes back. And you're like, wow, right this very moment, I am all scarcity and I am all abundance. I am all scarcity and I'm all abundance. And that's what will happen. And there's a stillness and there's a surrender and there's a trust. And your body changes and your life changes. Now, does that mean your mind is going to suddenly magically stop being traumatized? No. No, it means that you've got through some of the biggest layers so that when the other layers show up, maybe mental habits, maybe different programs, maybe traumatized selves, it'll be easier. Be easier to help them to shift into the stillness that you'll find. Yeah, permission to be afraid. Permission to be afraid. Oh yeah, you got it good, Julie. So she says, great question. We were asking, about the inside of ourselves. And she said, I've been afraid of separation, losing my family, feeling guilty. But I'm letting that die, realizing it's part of the wave and the light. Yeah, and it doesn't have to die so much as it has to surrender. There really isn't any death. That's not real. It's only ever change. So we might say, well, I'm willing to let this transform into the truth. The immovable truth of all things are light. That never changes. And that's what we surrender to when we let our fear of losing our family and our fear of death dissolve. Good work. Ooh, yeah, Jesse has a good polarity. Exit and entrance. It's all the same. Every door is always the same. It's both an exit and an entrance, isn't it? Rochelle's wondering about dreaming about dark. And it could be dark people, dark events. That's, it's not so much a release as it's a revealing. It reveals to you, oh, I really need to look at this. So if your dream life or your mental life suddenly like some evil ex-boyfriend or some super evil ex-girlfriend shows up in your mind or in your dreams, then that means that there's an energy there that's trying to get your attention. So just go into it and say, all right, well, this particular event that I dreamt about, it was really dark and these are the feelings I had and this is what happened and how does it feel in my body when I'm looking at this event or looking at this bad dream or looking at this bad person? How does it really feel? What you're going to end up finding, my dear Rochelle, is that there are no dark people, that there are no bad people. It's the same as dogs. There are no bad dogs. There were only dogs who were either abused or treated badly or not taught properly, and that's exactly what has happened to humans. And you'll find that all those dark people are actually beings of light. Even if they seem like the most evil person walking the planet, they really are actually beings of light, having an experience, discovering one or another side of a polarity. It just happens that, hey, all of us are on like this pretty nice light and love part of the polarity at the moment. It's really important, though, that we don't only look at light, because that teaching that whatever you put your attention on grows is not true. That takes away your ability to put your attention on something so that it can be diminished. So if you put your attention on this dark person or dark event or whatever, eventually what you're going to discover, the deeper you go, is that it was all made of light and so were they. And then we have compassion and we stop being in a state of victimhood, because then we're not holding that side of the rope anymore. The tyrant then has always been the victim too. Every tyrant was a victim, which is why the polarity gets played over and over again, because then those victims say, well, the only way I'm going to get out of this is by being the tyrant. It's a very subconscious choice. So you'll find that you'll less and less and less start labeling things as, well, they're evil and they're never going to stop being evil and that there's no hope. Or this whole thing's evil and it's all got to go. That's not really how reality works. If you take a bullet, none of us are going to say, this is a beautiful bullet, right? Well, we might, but it doesn't matter. If you look at a bullet, bullets are violent. That's their nature. It's the job of the bullet, right? But it's the shape, because it can fit in a gun, right? So maybe do both, take the gun and the bullet. These are not inherently evil things. If you boil them down, they're just pure metal. You can break down anything, and it will always be elemental. You could freeze dry a human suddenly, maybe take the most evil human you can think of, break them down. Break them down. What are they really made of? Is that stuff evil? Is a gun actually really evil, or a bullet really evil? Is a bad person really evil? No. No, when you boil it down, when you break it down, it's all made of the same stuff. It's all made of the elements of the universe. It's all made of source. So then our labels don't work because they can change so easily. Once you boil the bullet down, it's just metal now. And your lens of saying, hey, that's inherently evil and violent, or whatever. I'm just using like an example of a weapon or a human. You know, humans are used as weapons too, no matter what. And then swap it up. A tree. Here's this tree, didn't do anything to anybody. It's just a tree. We might say that the tree is good. We might say the tree is holy. We could say that tree is obviously non-violent. If you break it down, if you go down to the quantum level, what are you really seeing? You're looking at the elements. It's all made of source. The tree's made of source, the gun and the bad human and the good human. It's all made of the same stuff. It's a good mental exercise to get you connected to source. Because then you're going to be like, well, what is it really made of then? What is this thing that I think is inherently evil and that I don't want to put my attention on because it hurts too much? What is it really made of? It's all made of the same thing. It's made of the same thing as butterflies and puppies and cute little kids. It's made of the same thing as the stars. And so are you. It's a funny and weird way to navigate this. It's what I call quantum remote viewing. You got to go deep into something. Really, imagine yourself going into a cell or going into a tree, going into a bullet. What are you going to find? It's always going to be the same. It doesn't matter. You can go to the inside of the black hole. You can go to the inside of the earth, the inside of an atom. You'll find the same thing, light. Immobile, conscious light. No matter where you go. Good. People are bringing up some of the things they're afraid of, and especially like not being able to travel. And I understand that deeply. So I want you to sit with that, you know, whatever fear's showing up around the medical industry right now, traveling, your body, your health, freedom, all these things. What's happening is big change that's being imposed from top down. And that's not how change works. It's always from the bottom up. So from the inside out, this world is going to change. Top down never works. So anything that tries to be enforced that way fails every time, every single time. If that's true because of physics, then we need to look at from the bottom up, which actually does work. So if you're afraid, you need to work on your fear. You need to reconcile and know who you really are. And understand your sovereign self, understand the uniqueness of your situation and your facet and your body. So that's going to be the key. We all need to do this. If we're going to actually have a new earth experience where there's a lot of things that we can't even imagine right now that will happen, that will be much more amenable to getting humans and nature to work in harmony together, we got to do it from the inside out. So if you're afraid of anything right now, that's what needs to be in your attention. You need to go into it. You need to reveal it. You need to show yourself that you're able to go through a huge fear and reconcile it, and then feel that expansive consciousness that happens afterwards. Once you do it one time in your body, then you'll have figured out how to ride the bike for the rest of your life. So I'm glad that you're noticing your fear, you're naming it. Good. Go deeper. Intend it to be revealed. So Vicky's asking, what do parents need to share with children, like being creator beings? These are what we're also revealing to ourselves. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with Kimberly's ask as well. She says, how do I forgive myself for emotionally and physically abandoning so many people I've loved due to mental illness? Well, Kimberly, you weren't taught as a kid how to navigate that, right? So the first forgiveness you need to do is for your parents and your friends and family and teachers who didn't know how to help you, who didn't know how to teach you how to navigate being you, right? Usually when we have a lot of hard time forgiving ourselves, it's because we never had a chance to even learn how to do forgiveness in the first place. Or reconciliation. Sometimes it's not your job to forgive, but reconciliation in general. So that's the first thing. You know, what do we do with kids? Well, I'm the oldest of 7. There's 9 grandchildren in my family, and I help nanny 9 different children who all had different mental illnesses. So I do have and I've worked in preschools and I've homeschooled and done all sorts of stuff with kids of all ages and teens and you name it. And there's some basics. The first one is we need to learn how to share. But how do we take that ability to share up to an adult level? Well, we're doing it today. You're sharing how you're feeling. You trust me because I'm an open book, because I come onto these calls and I tell you exactly what's going on with me. And I tell you how I feel it's connected to a greater reality. And I share, I'm transparent. It's really important for us to learn how to be that way, but we can only do that if we're able to trust. So you're not going to be able to share your energy and your talents if you can't share your pain too. If you can't share toys when you're a kid, you're not going to be able to share your feelings when you're older. So sharing's much more than, have some of my strawberries or you can play with my toy for a little while. Sharing is also a deeply personal connection to the source and other people and other objects. So I teach my girls how to share. I teach them that when they're frustrated, when they're sad, when they want to reveal something to me, that they can share it without a repercussion from my ego or my trauma. That they can share it in an omnipotent field of love and that they'll be loved anyway. And I teach my children and I teach the children how to recognize that love, how to feel it inside themselves. The other thing I teach my kids is to be still, to notice how they feel and allow it to when their feelings make them. My daughter, one of them wants to move around and squirm and like writhe. And so I let her because that's exactly what her body needs to do to express how she feels, right? And of course, then the next thing is to be still, how to allow that, and then how to find the stillness at the other side of the really dramatic emotion that's showing up. because we're not going to find it by being told to go sit in timeout. We're not going to find it by being separated. We need to find it with somebody there to show it to us. And for you, if you have a hard time with this, one of the greatest teachers of this is the earth. You don't need your parents to teach you this now. You can speak to the planet. Earth's going to show you how to be still after a process. Just be with her. Open yourself up to her. She's a divine, loving being that truly, unconditionally loves humanity. Otherwise, she would have kicked us off a long time ago. She signed up for this movement in the evolution of consciousness just as much as we did. Use that. You are not alone. You do have a divine mother, and she is always there. Whether you feel that divine mother through maybe the Virgin Mary or the earth, or someone maybe in your life or not, a teacher from long ago, it's all the same. It comes from the love of Source. Just happens to take that form and frequency. Let those parts of reality teach you, reparent you, so that you can be still when you need to be still. Then I think probably the next piece, besides teaching kids that they're creator beings, and the way you do that is you keep showing them how they're creating a situation gently without trying to change it and saying, well, if you keep hitting your sister and you're making a choice, you keep hitting your sister and you don't feel like you're in control of your emotions, so you hit your sister, she's not going to want to play with you. And then you'll feel lonely. And let them take it to a logical conclusion. So if I create this, this is what may happen. And this is deductive reasoning, but through emotional intelligence. Teaching somebody that they're a creator being gives them back their power, so much so that a lot of times people get really uncomfortable with how powerful they are. And then you need to process wielding power. So those are some of the top things I'm noticing, Daki. I hope that's helpful. Obviously, that could be an entire course worth of stuff is awake parenting, and I do realize there's a need for that. So maybe we can all get together at some point, probably like July. I wouldn't mind sitting down and really nailing out exactly what awake parenting looks like right now. So that would be something really great to look at. Thank you for asking that question. Very good. Yes, Julie, you're right. Your process matters because it's unique. Exactly. Good. That's a big one. Jennifer says, I've gotten off the hamster wheel. I'm so glad. And realized what makes my soul happy and grounded. No more hamster wheel. What's a hamster wheel? Well, I call it a hamster wheel when you're dealing with a polarity, like scarcity and abundance, right? You go really hard through scarcity and you're like, oh, I don't like this direction. So you try to go really hard the other way. Oh, this is really hard. I'm feeling like I'll never get enough abundance. And then you keep going one way or another. How do you get off a hamster wheel? You got to find the middle ground, the still point, the reconciliation of both. I'm not going to fear or desire scarcity. I'm not going to fear or desire abandonment or abundance anymore. I'm going to welcome all the learning from this whole polarity. And as you do that, the hamster wheel becomes very still and you step off because you found the middle ground. Good. Good, good, good. Just kind of scrolling through, seeing if there's any other major questions before we build a pillar of light? So, yeah, there's some serious, awesome stuff here, y'all. I'm like really excited for you. This is proof, man, that we are doing this. Like, I'm so proud for you. Good. So there's a lot of questions about this darkness. Patty's wondering about soulless people. Julie's wondering about tyrants and demons, and do demons have souls? And there's just a really very clear single answer for all of that. So let's use demons as an example. So demons are the same species as angels. They all come from the seventh dimension. I'm sorry I keep messing with my hair today. I'm like really hot. It's coming into dry season in Ecuador, and it's like 80 degrees right now in my room. And if I leave my window open, it'll be too loud. So I'm like really hot right now. So let's look at demons real quick. And I really cover this in this class that I taught. It's available on my website. It's called Empaths and Entities. And I talk about entities. I talk about darkness and how to deal with all types of entities. And, you know, the demons and angels, again, they're the same species. They come from the seventh dimension. And no, they don't technically have a soul. There's a lot of technicality to that concept of what a soul is. They are, of course, a being of light, and so are you. But they reside in and have a very different reality because they're in a different dimension. But being a human is quite unique. You are also a being of light that's other dimensional, but you're inhabiting and animating and informing a physical body that has access to more dimensions than angels and demons do. And so when you really, really examine the demonic, if you go deep into it, you'll find light. You'll find that they too are made from God or source God, whatever you want to call that. Omnipotent, still consciousness from which everything rises. So over here, you know, here's the source field, and over here is a demon rising through consciousness with a unique facet in reality. And here's me over here, and you over here. And we're all rising forth from the same field with a unique facet in consciousness. So rather than saying like all demons are holy, which is not exactly how I would describe it at all, I would say all things come from source. All things are rising from the omnipotent consciousness of that still light. And that really levels the playing ground, doesn't it? So here's a being that seems not to have a soul, which I don't even really relate to that. That doesn't make sense. Because the soul is something that's a facet of consciousness animating or taking part in some dimensional reality that makes it seem like they're separate from source. So here's a body of a cloned person, and here's my body. These are two types of consciousness that are existing, that are rising up from source at the same time. So when I look at that demon or that soulless person, or the clone, or the hybrid, or the abductee, or the abductor, or the Andromedan, or the Pleiadian, or the Draco, or whatever. Now I see the truth. It's all from source, and it's all a unique facet in consciousness that is meant to learn from each other. So the demons in my life that I've experienced, I deeply value them. They have helped me understand reality so much because they showed me the truth. That they too are loved in this universe. That they too are of source. And with that, my friends, comes the greatest gift of fearlessness. There's nothing to be afraid of. Nothing. No mandate, no demon, no enemy, nothing inside of you, no shadow. And you'll only discover that if you're willing to go into the fear all the way through to the bottom of it. If you do it one time fully, then you'll know what I'm saying is true. That's all it takes. That's why you're here. This is the life you've been working for. For many, many eons, your spirit, your consciousness worked for this moment, for this lifetime, on this planet, with all of us. So we're doing it. All right, my friends. Let's get to some beautiful giving back that we can do for the planet. The children need us today. I had this beautiful, lovely friend of mine write me and say, hey, the children, they need some help right now. And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And then I'm like, the children right now who are all kids at this moment, they definitely need some support. But man, my inner child sure needs some support too. So the pillar of light we're going to build is for all the children on earth that have ever existed, including your inner child. So all the children that came before, that are here now, and that will be coming. All the children. This is our pillar of light for all the children. And so I asked, well, where should we build it? Because I like to kind of see what the earth shows me, where's a good place to build this pillar of light, and what's a pillar of light exactly? Well, if you haven't done it with us before, it's basically a projection of your intentions. It's like a living prayer. It's a big pillar. We imagine it through the fourth dimension, and I'll guide you on it. So we imagine it, and we build a pillar using our three minds, our gut, our lower dantian, the heart, and the mind. And so we build a foundation, a middle, and a top to our pillar, and it exists in perpetuity to transmit our intentions. And I like to read the group, and we find the foundation, the heart, and the mental intentions to project. So I asked Earth, where should we build this? We built one on the moon. That was really cool. But this one I got a very special place. And she is a very powerful mystic, Anastasia, of the Ringing Cedars. So we're going to build our pillar out in the taiga, near Anastasia, which is in Siberia. And Anastasia, she channeled through a lot of books, and I highly recommend them, all about parenting and New Earth and families and living in harmony with Earth. She was one of the original 12 beings who started this whole experiment on Earth. And so she's very, very original, very powerful, very pure. I really like her a lot. And she's so easy to find. All you have to do is imagine and say, wonder, where her energy is. And like, bam, it's huge. It's this gold light that just comes out of the center of Siberia and takes over or that entire continent. So that's where we're going to build our pillar, is out there in the taiga, to be transmitted by the trees. And most of you know, the trees love children. The trees helped me so much as a kid. And the trees in Siberia are very powerful and very conscious, and they're all connected by the mycelium internet, talking about an extremely large consciousness that has invited us to support the children. And they're going to add their part into all the trees. So let's do it. All right. Just want you to imagine Siberia and just zoom down, and we're going to find this little place that's next to a big river in the very center of Siberia. It's good to be near this river. There's a bend in the river. It goes like this, and we're going to be sitting right here. So here's the bend. We're going to be here. And there's all these trees on both sides for as far as you can see. And so I just want you to imagine that, being next to this river. Water has memory. And as the water moves out to the oceans, it will take the memory of what we've built today with it and fortify all the water around the planet that will help the children. And the trees will inform all the other trees on the planet and fortify the natural field that supports the children. Good. So come together in a big circle. Everyone who will add their energy in live or later on the recording, which works just as well. We just welcome all of you to come together in this big circle of beings of light, so pure and playful and beautiful, talented, intelligent, strong. All those things that we had wished for sometimes when we were kids, somebody to tell us that we were smart and strong and that we could do this. And that's the first thing I feel deep in my gut, is our foundation, is for all the children of the past, present, and future to know this, to be gifted this. So I'm seeing my inner child receiving this, and yours too, to be gifted this truth. You are a creator being. You are so precious. You are unique in all consciousness. You are valid, you are important, and you are powerful beyond measure. It's a love letter to our inner children, to the children of the earth right now and the children coming. Let that show up in your tummy, in your gut. Let it fill your whole root. And now with a deep breath, I want you to just project it to the middle of our circle here on the beach of our river. Now, it's so pure. The light is so bright that comes from that. It's very, very pure. It's very vivid. It's almost ultraviolet white, like it's this pure white light and with a slight bright indigo tint to it, right? Yeah, very good. Innocent. All right, let's come up into our heart. And of course, this energy of not being alone. As kids, we get really confused as to what the heck's going on, and we feel left in the dark, and mom and dad or whomever, whatever family members seem to know everything, but we don't. And it feels very lonely to be human in a society over eons that was always oppressed. So we might not be aware of the oppression right away when we come in as kids, but we experience it initially as a feeling of being alone, separate, strange, not fitting in, because we haven't bought into being oppressed yet. And if someone comes up to you at that moment when you're feeling that and says, "You're not alone. You're not alone. This is something's weird and you're recognizing it. You're not alone. You're part of something bigger, and the folks around you, they haven't figured that out yet. What are you part of? The web of life. When you fall, Gaia always catches you. When you fall, the web of life is always there. And then we learn how to trust that we're here for something bigger. We're not here for that confusion. We're not here for the oppression. We're here to end it through the revealing of the truth that we are one. And that's the message we're giving the children, our inner children, the children of the present, the children of the future. You're not alone. You're not alone. You are part of something bigger. Let that fill your heart. And with a deep breath, let's project it to the center of our pillar now. Wow, that one went straight up through my face and then like out. I could almost see like sparkles coming out of my cheeks. Good. I can feel that web, the real internet. I can feel it. It's so beautiful. It's so refined. And that's the gift we're giving the children, is the truth. Good. All right, so coming up into the upper dantian area of the body now. The message I'm feeling very clearly for us to give the children, the past, present, future. Nothing is as it seems. Mom and dad might point at something and say, that's pure evil. A teacher might point at that and say, no, that's wrong. It needs to be done this way. Some horrible experience shows up with a horrible, nasty, mean tyrant, and we feel victimized or oppressed. Nothing is as it seems. The tyrant is made of light and was once a victim too. The teacher's been programmed to program you. The thing that seems like pure evil is really made of source, just like you. Nothing is as it seems. We're pointing at the matrix and saying, nothing is as it seems. See this structure here? See this system over here? And this set of programs and this languaging and this belief. Nothing is as it seems. This person, this computer, this moment in time. And the last part of that message is trust your soul, trust your heart. They can't steer you wrong. They will only ever lead you into the truth, which is that it's all made of light. Trust your heart, trust your soul. Nothing is as it seems. Don't allow the illusion to create ignorance. Allow reality to unfold. Trust that you're here for that unfolding, and it will. So let's take that energy there, this message to our inner children inside of ourselves, to our kids that we raised long ago, or our siblings, or whomever, and all the children of the past, all the present children, and everybody coming in the future. Take this message and let's project it to the top of our pillar now with a big deep breath from our head, right? From the crown and third eye now. Wow. Well, what that did was really interesting. So this pillar is really bright and every pillar is unique and I see it a certain way, so I describe it to you just to help you feel connected to it. So the heart of it was very gold, this message of power, but the top of it actually blew open the atmosphere so we could see the stars. And that knowing that nothing is as it seems, trust your heart, trust your soul. It leads us to galactic consciousness, is what I'm seeing. And galactic consciousness is the realization that you're not just a human hanging out on Earth, my friend. You are a human in a galactic situation. You're in a galaxy too, not just a solar system. And galactic consciousness really changes the game. It changes how we will function, how we will rebuild and reuse and melt down all those guns and all those bullets and all that stuff and all those buildings and reuse the elements of reality to create something new, something beautiful, something nourishing, nurturing. But we do that with a common understanding that we are galactic citizens, not just earthly citizens. And that is the gift of nothing is as it seems. You aren't just hanging out in Kansas. You are part of something huge. You're part of a universe. But the brain of the human has a hard time with the universe part, but it can totally get the galaxy part. I know it can because we're all doing it. We're all conscious that we're part of a galaxy at this point. This is very unique in human consciousness history, but it's a gift. That's what the gift is. So how will this gift unfold? Well, it's transmitting in perpetuity there in the Taiga, probably being watched over by Anastasia, I hope, at least being watched by the trees. We're going to give this gift to the children, our inner children, the present and the future. Excuse me. I think that's my signal that I've talked enough today. So, my friends, we'll meet up at the end of May, the last Sunday of May. I bet it was real, Julie. The ringing cedars. So Julie says that she could hear it, and I can too. But let's unattach ourselves to our creation so that it can do its job. So I want you to just find your stillness. Let's disconnect our mind, our heart, our gut, and our whole bodies from what we've created so we can enjoy it. Take a deep breath. Good. All right, so the last Sunday of May, we're going to get together again. We're going to do this again, and we'll see what's coming up in consciousness. And I just want you to know that you can write me, that you can reach out to me. I do read everything you send me. Responding may not happen very quickly, but if you need that, if you need to be seen or heard, write me. You'll feel it. You'll feel that I read you. I read my emails every day. Responding to them is much harder because it's like a lot of emails. But it can be supportive. It can really help to know that there's somebody out there who gets you, who has no judgment for what you're going through, but the other way around, only universal compassion for anything that you're going through, anything. And at some point in May, I'm hoping to teach a class. The last one was really popular because you all asked me to teach it. It was about the history of DNA, and we got into some really good topics that were really important. And the next one I'd like to teach is about dimensions and how to understand the dimensions, because your body has access to the dimensions. So they kind of segue nicely to it with each other. And if you're curious more about this empaths and entities class, where I really dig in to explain how to manage, how to understand what all these evil people and beings are all about and how to deal with that, how to live a life that's not just coping, but actually doing deep inner work, changing reality every day. There's a very unique way to reconcile that. And I want to show you how to do that. So if that class really appeals to you, it's there on my website for you, okay? I'm trying to make it really affordable right now for you to be able to have this info. And then if you're signed up to my emails, I do a lot of interviews for that specific reason, because then I can teach basically like free miniature classes that are going to help you and support you. So it's a good way to get free information to you. So tonight there's an email going out about the rituals and routines and rituals symposium, and I highly recommend it because I'm going to teach you how to manage addiction once and for all. It's so key right now. It's coming up in consciousness for all of us. Good. So that's my calendar admin part, and I just want you to know, thank you. Thank you for putting your light and your intention into helping the children, and your own inner children can benefit. Your own inner child can benefit from this. So just kind of hang out with that energy. It's available there permanently. Isn't that cool? We just built something. It's going to stay forever until it's not needed anymore. When its job has been fulfilled, that's when it all goes home. So thank you. You gave a great gift today with your time and your energy, and thank you for being with me as always. And I truly honor you. I thank you so much for being open, for talking today, for sharing your struggles and your questions and your pain. I truly love you. And I hope for you the very best of the rest of April and through May. May this next crosswave be utilized fully by your unique, wonderful soul. I'm going to do my best to navigate it, and we'll get back together and talk about how it goes. All right, my friends. Namaste. I love you. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.